Ladies and gents, good evening. Welcome to Question Time Live, episode 130. Wow, racking up, aren't they? Absolute madness. So, how are you all? Defrosted? I tell you what, I cannot wait. I've just had my wellies on that aren't lined because they hurt my feet a bit less, and I now can't feel my toes. So that's kind of screwed that idea up a little bit, but there we go. Wow, I mean, it's busy at the moment, absolute manic with the events and bits coming up. The lack of bodies, really feeling it big time. So we're getting there, though. We're getting there. Who needs sleep? It's just, yeah, who needs it? Just had a great pondside session on the WhatsApp group. Absolutely great. And then the big one. Did you like it? In fact, did you love it? From all the comments, I would say you loved it. The documentary, of course, after so much work got into it, I was a bit anxious on how it would be received and that it would deliver on the hype a little bit. And I think it's fair to say from all the feedback I've seen so far, which has been heartwarming, to be fair, that it looks like it will be a very useful bit of kit. And yeah, enjoyable, well packaged as well. So it's, yeah, I can't even begin to tell you. Just typically the way it went about, to be honest, was just so the way I tend to do things. It just looked like the whole thing. When we knew Martin had so much footage, I said, you know, the story behind this, Aaron, it's great. I said, you know what we should do? We should make a documentary. Zero experience between us. And I just said it's so blasé, as I typically do, like, fuck it, let's do it, we'll find out. I've watched, when I tend to watch things that I like, I then rewatch because I then start analysing what I like about it and try and break it down. And a lot of stuff, I was quite inspired by, it's nothing to that caliber, mind, The Last Dance on Netflix, if any of you've seen it, the Michael Jordan one. And I was just watching that thinking, even to make something just you know, even close would be amazing. And so we did. And then they're just funny bits really that came together that was interesting. So if you notice throughout it, there's times when Martin's telling his version of the story and I'm telling mine. Now it actually seems it's cut back and forth from me to him so seamlessly, it seems. Yeah, oh God, that was a mouthful. And we actually shot that completely independently. Absolutely. I was in office in Retford. He was at his pond, as you can see. And obviously the way it came that we was able, when we just started, Aaron had naturally laid the footage out and I started watching it and he chopped a few bits up and I went, oh my God. So that was really one of the bits for me. I think in it all, I was like, I really love that bit. I think it's awesome the way that flowed, having been completely independent but came together. And amongst a few other bits, and I've got to say, hats off to the kid because it was his first. He's class with the editing. You've seen that, and I think on some of the work we've done, I'm seeing the progression come through in how I've been pushing him. But then the sound staging, the music on that, he'd never really done it before to this extent. And I personally think when you actually kind of look through the visuals and what the music he added brings to it and how well selected it was, he'd done a remarkable job on that side of it. So. Yeah, on to the next one, ladies and gents. What should it be? What should it be? I've got an idea in mind that I think, given obviously we need resource and footage and whatnot, and it's probably going to involve getting a certain person over to Japan. But let's see. So anyway, I'm glad it went down well, and yeah, hopefully it gets out there beyond our kind of regular audience and onto a few others as well. So I think the big bit amongst it all is that for people who have been through it, because I think there seems to be an element of shame that catches when you've had bacterial infections, albeit for the first time, whether you're a new keeper, koi keeper, more advanced koi keeper. I think there seems to be an element of shame that catches. There is also an element, and I see this a lot, of people, I don't know why and for what reason, convincing themselves that they can get this done, sometimes without the diagnosis, without the correct antibiotic, more than anything, because that is the biggest part of it. You will likely, through not using that, you might get instances where you kind of stem it a little bit, but trust me, it'd be so volatile to just getting completely rocked and tipped on its ends. You've got to really wipe it out throughout, from going from the outside in and the inside out, is what I'd say. You know, dealing with the water, dealing with the fish, and make it sure you get it, you know, nailed. So yeah, it's a nasty one. But the one thing I hope people take from it is there's no shame in it. Everybody gets caught out. In my history of koi keeping, this is why I feel qualified to talk about it, is that years back myself and my old man got hit with this big time, and we made so many fucking mistakes a long time ago now, but it cost us. And what I had to learn from that, and what I did learn from it, was quite remarkable. And the outcome of that time was pretty much the basis of the process that I created and applied to Martin's pond. I say the only addition really in the whole steps was the Burcon disinfection. I used the same PP dosing, antibiotics not diagnosed at that time, but bacterial, knowing that it's quite broad range, and it was crazy back then that we could phone a vet's up quite easily, and because we had a relationship, get antibiotics that we needed. But it was the methodology of then having to get that antibiotic into everything, even the healthy looking fish. So, and that's not really changed. I've helped a lot of people with that same process, but I think the big bit, and I can't stress it enough, is getting the proper diagnosis, knowing what you're dealing with, and going from there. So enough about that. But like I say, absolutely no shame in it. It gets everybody at some point. I think you're just lucky if you get by without, or hopefully not lucky, you know, if you apply the right practices from day one and learn from others' experiences, you might avoid it. But it only takes, for example, for you to get one bad fish from somewhere that you might miss it, and you can just import that problem with all the best practices in the world as easy as that. And it might even be that you can get caught out in retail shops when they've got centralized systems, for example. So you might physically be looking in a tank full of koi that you can see have no problems, but if they are in a system where there's other tanks on it that have problems, and you haven't figured out it's all linked together, that fish could be carrying that problem quite easily, and bosh, you've imported it. And someone did ask, because obviously in the documentary Martin's got a few ponds, that was there a reason why the others didn't get it. So the outdoor pond did suffer. I think the outdoor pond suffered because there was transfer of fish from one to the other, and once it started, the same issue took hold. It was a slightly delayed reaction, and at the point of Bryony getting involved for the testing, it was actually more rife in the outside pond than it was the indoor. So we knew it was likely imported again from the other pond, and that was the issue. But it's more than the water problem was linked to the healing and actually getting over it, and this is the problem. So heavy metals exposure in water won't necessarily directly cause a problem, but when there's trigger points that can create it, so say you get a bad case of flukes, it opens the slime coat up a bit, waterborne bacteria gets in, a real strong fish might just be able to deal with that on its own. In a pond where the immune system's suppressed by heavy metals, bosh, you've got a major on your hands that should only have been a minor, and that's sort of the point of the heavy metals. So there we go. I'm just kind of looking at myself back on this, thinking my eyes look fucked. It might be because it's been so cold outside, but I am feeling it. I'm not. The early morning starts, I think, are catching up. as it stands. So yes, let's not forget, ladies and gents, it is question time. I can see you firing a few in already, so feel free to keep them coming. I don't think I've got too much to waffle about tonight. The next video, I've got two in the chamber. One's a journal video for some catch up, and the other is part 4 of the Golden Corn Grow Out series, and you are gonna love that one. Both will be out this week, maybe one tomorrow, one Sunday, something like that. I'm not sure, but stay tuned for it. The Golden Corn one is epic, and he's done a really nice edit on it. Again, I think there's quite a distinct sort of new style and look coming through, which is awesome. I love that stuff. So yeah, let's jump onto this one. Hi Ricky, have you got any new tosi coming from? So, Andy, you know me too well. The chances of getting information from me of what's coming up, unless it's very current, is very slim. So keep asking, mate. But you'll find out at some point what's coming up and when. If you put carbon in a bag submerged in a filter, out of a bag of carbon in a shower filter, would it have the same effect on the pond? Yeah. So I mean, if it's in the water body, I think submerged. Sorry, more than anything, I don't know showering because of ultimately the water flow you get on it. But if you've got it submerged in a filter somewhere, yes. I think the issue with that these days is when you look at people's filter systems in general, there's very little room to go putting that in. But yeah, getting it in the water body, I think what I like, and the reason I've done it with the Big Blue, is you're really making sure you're passing that water and forcing it through that carbon bed and getting really great contact. But yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic substance. Let's face it, substrate substance. It's very useful, and that's what in the aquarium world, as I know too well, you rely on the stuff, and you know it's used for good reason. And it's not like, you know, availability of carbons and stuff these days is very different to what it used to be. It's not crazy expensive, especially when you think of all these different additives, the cumulative cost of everything you throw in versus what that does. And for me, what it does versus additives is gives stability, because it's changing, you know, adapting, changing the water slowly. Even if the carbon, you know, becomes exhausted, it's going to change back relatively slowly. And I'm talking there, you know, from organics and things like that will also be removing. But then when it's there, you're getting consistency, and that is always the most important thing when it comes to successful koi keeping. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Chris on the evening, Ricky. Thanks for my golden corn. There you go, mate. Any advice on how to stop? So my break it to the missus is obviously it's stock. It's quite an easy one. It's an absolute it's a cop out, really. As for buying so many, I mean, of all the fucking people to ask, I am absolutely the worst one there, Chris. So I'm going to move on from that question, pal. I really am. Well done, Terry. What is the optimum retention time for biofilters? About to embark on my new build and need to size my biochamber. There's a good bit. They used to, but this is the problem is there's not been any up-to-date information. I'm probably due a call with Jasper about this. With old multi-bays and kind of static medias, they used to say 10 to 15 minutes. Now you do the maths and try and actually get that right. That is not easy to achieve without having huge volumes of water. I think this is why the Japanese do quite well, because the chambers they use are so big. They can actually pull quite a bit of water through and still get a great retention time, which really plays into the hands of the Jap map that they're using. So just the longer the better. There's going to be realities here to what you can achieve, and with whatever it is, if you're building it, you know, great. But I'm inclined. This is where this conflicts, and this is commercialism versus, you know, your real world implementation. It's not the way filtration's gone. You know, the more water you can get in there, the better. But space is becoming, you know, ever more of a premium. With fluid beds, interestingly, the more depth you get, they can actually become more effective and more efficient. I'm sure Jasper told me once upon a time 1.2 meters was like a real optimal depth for oxygen saturation as well. So yeah, I'm just going to say the longer the better, only because he will have information for me that's probably more related to where K1's at. And I've had an interesting thought myself I want to explore, is that since my last chat with him about K plus and K plus having its own retention time, this is where this gets cool and could possibly lead to allowing you to get more water through a chamber. Yeah, is that might apply to it. So I want to delve in and get some more up-to-date information, because mine is all on that. I'm just, as I'm working, I'm looking at really getting a decent sized chamber and having the line, the main filtration line running there, so we're turning over through it once every 2 hours, and whatever conclusion that comes to is where it's at really. And I still like to make up, I've said it several times, if you want more turnover, do it by adding another line or adding your shower or something like that, the same way that I do, just to keep that optimal kind of bacterial filtration there. So, but I will at some point make that call, because yeah, I'm curious, and I've really seen it with K plus. It holds water. It has its own retention time. It's cool stuff. I've got to say, since I've added that in these couple of systems, seeing just how different it seems to be to the original K1, I'm very impressed. And like I say, that chat I had with him, even around the outer layer for the likes of denitrification and stuff like that, very, very impressive. And just once again, I know I've said it, but what a guy he is. Yes, thank you very much. Evening, Ricky. Absolute pleasure, mate. Evening from Norway. Crikey, I bet it's cold there a minute. Bad enough here. Evening, Ricky. Evening all. Congrats on the documentary. It was a brilliant watch. Daft question with the metal. Should they be at zero for koi? Right. I don't know. I have got data on fish safe limits. It's data. I'm not going to say I stole it. It was published in one of the old koi carp magazines from Anne Telford, who she was way ahead of her time with this stuff. All clear water purifiers, it used to be back in the day. There may be people watching that remember Anne and that company. She invested so much into this and was single-handedly banging a drum through them magazines about it. And I think nowhere near enough attention was paid to her at the time. And she actually helped me with my first case I come across where I suspected something untowards. Really strange. Again, it was linked to a bacterial infection that I helped a guy overcome. Really, it was again. So that story is probably worth diving into. I remember it. So it was actually with my first retail venture when I was 18. That was a while ago. And this old boy, I remember him, no longer with us. He great guy. Really, I could just see he absolutely loved it, and took some fish away from me. And same thing in a short period, I'm talking a few weeks, comes back to me reporting bacterial problems, and I'm thinking, oh fuck, because it's a really difficult position on my side of the fence with that, because I know everything is spotless here, but obviously you're in it's a new relationship at that point as well, and the issue comes that obviously I don't know the environment. You don't always get the truth, and it's, let's face it, it's just a cop out. I'm not, you've got to be very not to go, well, it's not my problem. That whole tensions can rise from it, that it's like, you're denying something straight away, you can get defensive. It's like, you might not even be being criticized. But anyway, we managed to get past all that quite quickly, and he was quite local, so I got my arse out there and had a look, and yeah, my God, it was bad, but I got out quite quick that issues had been there. So my fish had gone in, they were a great food source, boom, it kicks off. Anyway, starts diving into this, and I did all my usual stuff that I do and got the fish recovering, healing as well. There was always something strange with this pond, and it got me. Despite the water being cooking up at 22, 24, these fish seem to have no appetite. absolutely no appetite. It was crazy. And I thought, this is bomb. They'd even show interest. They'd show this the kind of, energy towards food. And they'd have a tiny bit and they'd be gone. It's like they were full. I'm like, no, this is not checking out. There's something more to this. And then after a period of healing, they just opened up again. It carried on. And it's not until I just noticed the walls of the pond absolutely dead. No algae growth, nothing. So a particular blanket weed treatment at the time, I don't even know if it's still on the market or it's changed since. It was quite a popular one. I was aware it had zinc in it. You're really aware, because it's good for getting rid of blanket weed. And I thought, right, something more. So I engaged Aunt Elford at this point and sent some water off to her. My God, she was remarkable. And it come back, and the zinc in this pond, the zinc in the tap was unbelievable. And the zinc in the pond was even more outrageous. So, of course, there can be a cumulative build-up. And the only thing to absorb it really is the fish. But it made sense that there's no algae on the walls because so much zinc. But this was then the water, source water, combined with this blanket weed treatment being thrown in. And I mean, back then she had, and doesn't seem to be these on the market right now, but she had very specialized cartridges for all this. And I remember that it was very expensive gear, and the cartridges were not going to last long either, because she had amazing data based on kind of levels of how long cartridge sets would last. So it really feels like this is missing in the marketplace at the moment. And in the end, we got this implemented. I actually went a step further with that one and added, it was actually a full UV sterilizer unit, but from what I know today, it wouldn't have been necessary. And that's the ones where the bulbs are some crazy money each, because they work on different wavelengths and do physically kill free bacteria in the water. But I'm not a huge advocate of that stuff really. But yeah, in the end, got this pond sorted. But that was it. And it was that feeding behavior stick with me. Like, there's something more to this. Why there's no algae? Then fish aren't healing properly, and that feeding behavior is not right. And in the end, when all this stopped, it was a very, very long process. Again, I'm talking probably 6-9 months. Got there in the end. So I've gone a really long-winded way round to answer that question, but it's just another study there and some of the symptoms that come through. But yeah, do they have to be zero? No, they don't have to be zero to answer the question directly. But there are fish-safe levels that, and with some other researchers, actually came to the conclusion of these being the levels. The interesting part with it is, like with copper, for instance, there's a different value for hard and soft water. The interesting thing is here, the research was done basically with each metal in isolation. So that fish safe value is based on only the presence of that one metal, and not when there's a combination. When there's a combination, literally nobody knows what the safe level is at that point, which is pretty scary really. And given a lot of the water tests that I've seen, there seems to be quite a high base level at maximum fish safe value, and some just over iron in the water in the UK in general, which doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for all the other stuff and the presence of it. So it's not easy. I often say, and this is where it comes to when I've spoke about the permanent trickle in the past, is all good and well if you've got quality water, and not everyone has. And then there's the argument obviously about RO that comes into it, which many will make, but my mantra, I don't think it's a fantastic solution, because there's layers of complexity, there's all the additional costs that aren't right for people. It's not something that, in my opinion, is scalable. For me to come on here, it's not something that can easily be preached to you guys that you can implement without spending a fortune or adding layers of complexity to it. And then also you've just got a base liquid there that's got fuck all in it and really needs rebuilding to be proper, good water for your fish. The guys that are the luckiest are the ones in Japan or who have underground water. So NND, for example, the fish houses there, as Fujo tells it to me, the water coming from underground there is literally on the runoff of a mountain, and it is pure drinking water that they've got, that they're able just to pump out of there and use freely. And make no doubt about it, if I had that quality and volume of that kind of water, yes, I'd be running a permanent trickle of it, absolutely. It's just not the reality for the vast majority of us. Hence where the likes of carbon can actually really become incredibly useful and implemented, and a way of achieving that incredible look on the water without, like I say, chemicals, and actually keeping it there permanent and sustainable as well. But the metals values, I seem to think, I'll have to have a dig back. I'm sure I published it in one of the Coin Talk issues, but we'll look into that anyway. Amazing stuff. Yes, the tamasaba. God, I absolutely love them. I just feed them that is sake growth or balance and colour, the same stuff the koi have. The big thing, I had this chat with Okada at NND last time though, is that generally a bit of an approach for stopping them getting too round, the females more than anything, managing the egg load when they get bigger and more mature, is to go on a slightly more lower calorie diet, which is the likes of a sake balance, which I have played around with a bit more this year. I'm very happy you have all enjoyed it. Yes, absolutely agreed, mate. And that documentary, I just think, as without the story, as a production piece, when you watch it, is absolutely fantastic. Just as we learn, it relies so much on a story and so much archived footage. So no doubt, I mean, 5 years into this channel now, I think we're probably getting to a point where we might be able to get a bit more creative. All we need to find is a few extra hours in the day. How long do you think the bone char will last in a medium big blue if used as on the documentary? So I can't remember if Martin's changing it every 3 or 6 months. I mean, the interesting point here I want to labour, this is not an essential bit of kit for every pond. I'm not running them. I don't need to. I mean, it's a great way. If I wanted to polish the water up something crazy like that, yep, fantastic. But there's no need for me. There's no need for everybody to be jumping on it. There was a very specific problem that needed to be solved here. And like I said, I didn't want to go down other routes such as RO and things like that. So, I mean, a very easy way to tell is because what I just thought, the minute that starts burning out, you're going to see probably a return to the organics building up in the water, so the water colour changing. Plus, the hard thing to quantify here is ultimately it's how hard you make it work. Your organic load in your water, the metals, that carbon could vary from pond to pond in how long it's going to last. And I have no formula for it either. It's a lot of trial and error and observation and seeing what's what. I'll do. So I will check your certificate, Tom, at some point, mate, when I dig it out, and I'll let you two decide whoever's got the most amount of stars. Good evening, Cole. I have a question for everyone. Okay, has anyone had their koi stolen from the garden ponds recently, and what outcome did you get from the police? I'll let you guys chat away in the comments on that one. Can you have too much UV? No, David, not really, mate. Not really. And it's only, obviously, it's UV clarification generally that you're getting as well. Like I just mentioned there previously, sterilization is very different, and you would need a huge amount of capacity on the standard clarifying bulbs to get to sterilization as well. Good afternoon. Team US in the house. What's the best? I'm going to say food for koi there. Sake akari, absolutely no argument. I'm having it no other way. What turnover rate is best for a moving bed, and is there a difference between best turnover for a moving bed versus Japanese mat filter? Again, I would just say refer back, because I've kind of answered that one with Ant's question a bit earlier. Hi Ricky, if you were looking to grow a shower from Tosai with the goal of show quality specimen, would you only buy the Tosai from a particular breeder? I think what you have to look at is at what point you want to show the fish. Now, I'm going to just flip this to Kohaku for a minute, because I can just reference a bit easier. Show is a bit trickier because of the sumi element of it. I would say what springs to mind is there that Kibi, I think, is very strong in this area because of how beautiful, and I've used that term, his Tosai are, which would help you in the smaller sizes. But I think the big thing here, if we look at Kohaku, there's certain bloodlines of Kohaku that will show very early. So Taniguchi, from anything from 12 cm upwards, can be impressive. He's got a really high pattern level in his fish. They're the kind of patterns that can win at shows. If we then go to Nogami, for example, it's no good looking at Nogami for a koi show. Generally, anything below 70 centimeters, and they really come to life at 75, 80, some even 90 cm. That's an absolute reality for you, and that's just how some of them are, because of the style of the fish, the pattern style as well. A lot of Dainichi fish, don't really make sense till they hit them bigger sizes. So it does depend at what point you want to look at show. If you want them for them smaller, Showa, I would say there, Kibi. Every breeder will generally, obviously, who's got quality, will have some Tosai come through. Isas, Dainichis, there's always the ones that flash up, but funnily enough, they're always the ones that command the highest price, because there's so few of them, and everyone knows it's not easy to get them to win at the shows in Japan. So yeah, I think the biggest thing I always say, and I know it's important, but if you're buying fish with shows in mind, you can't lose sight of making sure you actually buy quality first and foremost. And depending on the price you're paying, you're going to want to decide, because in Japan, you're competing with guys who will genuinely, and I've seen it happen, spend 10 to 15,000 pounds on 15 centimeter Tosai to win a specific prize. And if it does nothing beyond that point, they don't care. They're happy just to write it off, probably recoup a bit of money from it in an auction or something like that. Whereas, and that's when you're competing against that madness, unless you're in that league to be able to just spend money like that to win prizes, I think you want to be making sure ultimately you've got a quality piece that you can enjoy through a number of years. And if it develops into a quality fish that you can then show, great. And once you feel like you've got a good grasp and understanding of quality, it's then trying to sort out, find out the patterns that are going to work best. And the pattern style that is successful will vary from country to country as well. There really is a big difference. Japan is hugely different because of the way they look at fish to what happens in England. I've seen it time and time again. Fish that don't win, fish that win well in Japan, I've seen do absolutely nothing that shows over here. The judging is very different. Hope you found that useful. All right, we've done that one. Thank you very much. What sort of fountain pump was on that through the Big Blue? It was, and I'm sure, Aquarius, just the small pumps they've got a little flow control on them. I made sure it had the flow control because I wanted to make sure it weren't the smallest actually. I wanted to make sure it got enough to obviously force it through the bed, and then obviously just slow it down if we needed to. I'll have to get, because Martin he's well into all his keeping track and data and info. So at some point I'll ask him to dig it out and get a few more bits. If you had an indoor pond in the garage shed with limited light, would you add an artificial light? Yeah, this is all about that. It is there. So I think just looking at full spectrum lighting from aquariums would help. The issue is positioning on the pond, because even daylight bulb, whatever it is, but you need the spectrum. You need all the different color parts and some UV. Obviously UV can be provided as well. You've got to be careful with them sorts of lights, but the big issue here is positioning. because a lot of the light's abilities and the range that they work over, by you mounting it on a roof, before you know it, the penetration through to the base or through into the waters probably might not even get to the surface, you know, which is crazy. So bear that in mind. But yeah, and a lot of the kind of grow lights and stuff you can get, albeit they tend to be very high wattage, which is another thing. But having those full spectrum lights that are, most of them are controllable now as well, will definitely help. But without, you know, great UV, it might keep it looking red, but thin the color out, if that makes sense. And that's where the lack of UV will probably come in. If you're not getting that, is not getting the color thickness there. Thank you very much. Hi Ricky, when you were feeding the koi with antibiotics in the food, how do you know you're getting it? Yeah, and as you weigh the koi per dose, don't you? I can't remember all the ins and outs. Martin did all this with Bryony, so again, I need to get it. There was a dosage that she set on it, and obviously, yes, you can't guarantee every fish gets it, but most fish do always end up eating. The trade-off here was ultimately the quantity of fish and the amount that the times that would have to be netted, anesthetized, and injected in order to get the same result. We're just weighing pros and cons, and the oral based ones seem to make the absolute most amount of sense to get a blanket treatment across it. But again, I will when I have a chat with next, see what the full process he went through with it. Took us 7 months to get up on straight, and after getting one bad fish. Wow, very sorry to hear it. Greetings from Florida. Amazing. Enjoyed the documentary. Eating it all. Oh, I like this question coming up. Any of your stash? So none of my fish personally, Andrew. The one I was going to enter, being that rather interesting Toyota shower I have, has been sold. So I'm going to share a picture at some point of the lineup from just Toyota we've got going into the old Japan, and it is fish porn personified, let me tell you. I think it's going to impress a few people, that one. If I kind of sent it looking, I was like, holy fuck. Just first thing, see all them lined up next to each other and how mental that is. It's the culmination of quite a few years of work there. So can't wait. But as ever, you climb up those ranks. We're in one of the most competitive varieties in the biggest show in Japan at size classes, where competition gets fucking brutal as well, let me tell you. Yeah, we're 70 to 78 cm size range, and 2 males and a female. Crazy. In the video, you set up a system similar to running an aquarium. Yes, Mickey, I think we've probably covered enough of that right now, mate. I'm looking to get a golden core, Ricky. Who do you think is the best breeder? There is only one breeder, Robert Taniguchi. There's still nobody. To call it golden corn, for me, it wants to come from that genetic pool that he's created. I've not seen anybody take it yet and do anything further with golden corn from Taniguchi. They are still very much an original, and that's where it wants to be coming from. Close now, Terry, mate. I'm hoping to get them out tomorrow, early morning, editing, pal, and fingers crossed it'll be all done. Just got 3 Dainichi Tosai and put them in quarantine. Within 2.5 days, they came down with sleeping sickness. What's the best temp and salinity to recover it? So salt 0.5 to 0.6. It really depends how bad they are here. Temperature, sometimes you can get away with 22. Sometimes 25. In the last cases, I actually took them higher. I took them up to 26 because I wanted to move. I can't remember. I might have gone to 28. I can't even remember. I want to take them out of the range where the virus is active to deactivate it. But there's a lot more going on with my pond, Susan. So you might want, I mean, 25 is a great one. You get them there. It depends how badly they fall with it as well. Can a Yonsei male Marido-Chagoi continue to grow? Is it 17 to 19 inches right now? Okay, so I mean, that's quite a small size for a 4-year-old Chagoi, Kevin, to be honest. Yes, I can't see the fish. Generally, you might get some more growth. I wouldn't say it's going to stop, but it depends on the environment it's in as well. Outdoor, unheated, that growth is really, really going to slow off. So don't expect it to be all of a sudden pushing up to some wild size, unfortunately. But yeah, I'd say there should still be some there. It's just going to depend on the conditions to eke it out. Evening, Stu. You can't, because I've still not got round to doing them. Driving me mad, but I know when I'm kind of at my limit as it stands and trying to do anything else. But all I can say is, as time's gone on, my God, can I really vouch for the quality of this gear that I found, because it has been so washproof, robust, comfortable, nice fitting, you name it. So it's high on the list. At some point we'll get some gear out. Like I said previously, color, growth and balance depending on the fish, and small and medium pellet depending on the size of the fish. Do you think a pool style sand filter at the end of the filter line is good for polishing water? I don't like these completely closed vessels. Just in general, they bother me that you can't see in any way what's going on inside them, and they can and be notoriously bad shit collectors. However, that's been more so with the likes of beads, because beads clumping used to be a huge problem, and sand filters I've never had any love for. So between the sort of two of those, if it's with those, absolutely not. What does intrigue me is that with the ones that have got, you know, K1, K plus in, ultimately, as I'm looking at that, I'm thinking that should have general better flow and less opportunity, so long as it's got a good backwashing system. And I would always advise regular intervals where you're stripping them down and making sure they're not just full of shit if it's what you're going to use and have. Thank you very much. No idea, Stu. Again, time, buddy, and what's going on. But let's see. I might surprise you. I've had a bit of an idea. I'm just not sure where I'm going to get to execute it. Glad to hear it, Tom. Grabbed yourself a bargain, mate. Ricky, should you use permanent UV light with Tamasaba or koi? Are we talking as a light source or within the pot? So they're all used in ponds generally to control algae, but no, not permanent. Light control here, nothing's permanent. It's light control and balance, as with everything. That's the real important factor. Ian, Rick, I know it's been said multiple times, but great documentary. 2 questions. Have you got any more planned and any advice on up-and-coming breeders over the next couple of years in Japan? Yes, so yeah, ideas in the pipeline as always. It's just what can we get to execute on? Because I think the next one might be doable, but let's see. And like I say, hours. So time will tell. Up-and-coming breeders. There you go. That's got me thinking. There's quite a few of the sons still transitioning through on various farms. I can't think off the top of my head at the moment. There's nothing obviously massively jumping out, although it's nagging me in the back of the head that there is something. Let's see. It might come to me a bit later on. Sorry, I can't get to it right now. You put a link onto a test kit to test water quality. Would you get 2 tests, one for the tap water, one for the pond water? Thank you. So if you can stretch to it, one of each is ideal. because I think the understanding, in fact, I don't think the understanding you want to have is there any differential between pond and tap? Because as I explained to you with that little story earlier with the old guy's pond, is right there we notice, fuck me, there's a massive difference in the pond to the tap. What the hell's going on? In some rare instances, you might have a problem in the pond and it's not actually coming from your tap. But when you want to know, what's going on and what element you need to kind of figure out and sort out, if you've got high metals in your pond, in your tap, then it might be that replicating what Martin's done, treating it at source, incoming water, and having the system recirculating on there to help would be a good idea. Ricky, you were talking about carbon. Sorry, just to come back to that previous one, but obviously they are. This is the thing. It's not that when you're staring at it and it's sort of, what was it? That kit I have's 130, 140 quid or something. Yes, I get it, but we look at the price of koi and you sort of relative. I know it's not as fun spending money on that kind of stuff as it is a new koi, but kind of within reason, once you've done this stuff, you have an understanding of what's going on with your source water and you don't need to do it again. I think it's a very worthwhile one-off investment to really know what's going on with your water. One thing I want to stress with that kit, Ivario home test, is I just realized that if you've not been in the Telegram group, you won't have seen it, is that the report that comes through is a drinking water report. So you'll often see it all green and looking fantastic. Those values are often in milligrams per litre. They have to be converted to micrograms per litre, then benched against the fish safe values and not the safe tap water values for us. Please bear that in mind. Oh, you see, I'm going to say I love what Saito kicks off of his, although not traditional Makashi. Marido is probably the absolute best one. Excuse me. Oh, crikey. Marido is probably best, and probably second there, Marisate, or both on a par with what they've got there. On biofilter retention, can you speak to why it matters how long a batch of water is in place when the nutrients the bacteria consume are bathed in those nutrients? Assure retention. So what we've got here is just the general passage of water. With traditional filters, it wasn't spending enough time for bacteria to actually process it. So if that water isn't there for long enough, it's basically just whizzing through a chamber. And you see this, for it to catch it, if you like, you see this with UVs. UVs are exactly the same. It's not spending enough time for the light to shine on the water. If you do it before it's passed through, and even mechanically as well, you've got exactly the same concept there. That's why retention time matters. It's spending enough time in the filter for everything to do its job. Yes, water, to us, it looks like water's always in there. It is, but the speed of what it's actually passing through before it's processed properly is where the problems arise. No, everything we do is online. The farm is not open to anybody because of restrictions we have in place, both biosecurity ones we're very tough with and planning ones. Also quite an interesting point on this just right now with you, probably if you follow this, the kind of volume that we're dealing with have to put out. We physically, the model we have right now couldn't cope with one of us being drawn away for people visiting and looking around. That's why we keep it concentrated to the events and stuff that we do, because it would completely ruin the time and the process and everything we put into the online experience, which, as far as I'm looking, it allows a lot more people to engage and enjoy it. But do stay tuned. We are going to work on hopefully doing a few more of the physical ones from our unit. We did a few last year. It was great because we like to get out there, meeting the community, when we can, just in that controlled manner, allows it to be more time efficient, being completely straight about it. Plus the farm, it literally is a working farm. I would probably call it a death trap in most instances. I mean, when I'm jumping up on pond walls at minute, everything's fucking covered in algae because I've got the heat on in there, obviously the condensation. It's not yeah, not the one really. As much as I know everyone out there would say they don't care, there's just realities to it all, unfortunately. Yes, in relation to the retention. Miss Toyota picks, guys. Yeah, fingers crossed tomorrow, so you've got time to do your studying. I'm not sure what that's relating to. I see we've got a little chat going on about the guy and the fish stole. Honestly, that's absolutely dreadful. Got 2 ponds. Should I sort my fish out by size for some growth fund this year? I was instantly going to say don't go messing around too much, but yes, you can, you could. There would be benefit to that 100% if the ponds are set for growth. So if you know they're going to have the heat consistently through the summer, then absolutely. If you're not going to get that, it's absolutely no point faffing around, in my opinion. Hi Ricky, how many times an amount do you feed Nisai when it's about 23 degrees, and how do you mix the food percentage of growth versus balance? So if you're at that temperature, I'm never generally using balance. I'm always growth. I want the higher fat content, and the way that fats, carbs and proteins are generally balanced in a good growth food is what you want in order to gain volume. At 23, well, let's say we're more 24 at that, I'll be feeding every 3 hours, generally from, I think I set them up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and last feed might actually be 11 o'clock at night on those ones. And then they obviously pick a bit of a break in between for everything to catch up and process. The mix between growth and colour for me just depends on circumstances. As a hard and fat, if you've got a mixed pond, 75 growth to 25 colour, you'll generally find you're going to have very little adverse effects come from that. If you feel like your fish needs the colour boosting a bit more, then up to 50% would be the highest I would generally go with the colour. Follow-up documentary that oh, Jerry. Who wants the sciencey stuff? It's no fun. That there's information that no doubt we can get out bits and bobs more at some point, but yeah, sciencey bit does. I say it bores me. I don't like. I've always, one way I've learned is I can process information quite well, but my head, as it's taking it in, just naturally simplifies it into plain English. Yeah, which has obviously helped me throughout all this be able to put across a lot of these concepts in a fairly simple way. Rocky, yes, Rocky Balboa. Thanks for the documentary and all the great content you're putting out. Absolutely my pleasure. Nish, you're a very, very wise person, let me tell you. Yeah. Andy's really trying to get out of me, isn't he? Hey, he's just come with another side swipe, try and get me talking about breeding. Next, he'll be asking me what fish I've got coming again. Nothing. The plan, all being well, is for Miss Toyota again this year. I was about to say next year. We're already in it. But until I have more infrastructure, that's where that will be staying. There are. I'm not big. I mean, you can look off at one. I mean, Lincolnshire Fish Health. What's the stuff? They do one. But again, I think the issue here for me is there are one-off detoxifiers that can be used. This is more longevity and long-term stability, especially if it's coming in on your source water. And I do question, and I've seen it happen through some of the tests with some of them used. I don't fully know how the detoxification process works, but it is a one-off hit. And obviously, if you're adding it back in with your incoming source water, that's soon going to build back up as well. So, and I like the idea of more permanent solutions. I've got to say, I'm just looking at how big the rest of that list is, and I'm going to pick a couple more quickly. And I need to go eat and sleep, I think, ready for a shitload of picture editing in the early hours of the morning. So what we've got, Susan. Do I raise the temp over time or straight away? Over time, always the best way, especially if you're coming from really, really cold as well. You want to take a bit more time to bring them up. Let's have a quick look through. Look, some questions are crossing over a bit, folks, which hence why I'm just skipping through a bit of them. There we go. Good one to end on that. How much time would you give a koi to realize its potential before deciding whether to keep it or move it on? Now, there is a question. I would say, in general, you guys are not patient enough. Too impatient. I see this a lot, but it's difficult. It's really difficult. I think, and I have this same problem. Is when do you draw the line? I think a good broad range here is there's no way, unless something's you're looking at it going, right, that's now really shit. Like you've got an Asagi that's just gone black or something like that. But say we've got an Asagi that's looking good but waiting for the Beni. At 3 to 4 years old is when you might want to start going, maybe not. The fucking horrible thing with this is sometimes it can just take a change of environment and conditions, and it can actually stimulate it and trigger it and get it going. So it's the fun part with koi. But I would say realistically, assessments of things, i.e. Beni, Sumi development and stuff like that, you need to be 3 to 4 years in before you really start thinking, right, is this not going to happen? It just takes that amount of time. You know, in all reality, we can't truly understand. At Nisai, myself and a lot of people will really see where a fish is heading, bar some horrible, weird surprises that might crop up along the way. So on that basis, you know, but there's still then the will it, won't it, you know, the rest, especially when it comes to Sumi as well. And, you know, sometimes knowing the history of the fish, so say you've got a Shiro at 3 years old and you've only encountered it for the first time, that's a different situation to say having that fish from Tosai where you know it had Sumi, it dropped off at Nisai, now it's like, well, when's it going to come back, as opposed to it still if, when you've seen it there, it's different to it having never been there. And it's all these kind of things that go into the mix. But if you want a general rule of thumb, you need to be 3 to 4 years in before you really start thinking, no, this is not going to do it, unless it has already failed, i.e. Beni's breaking up, you know, whatever it is, variety specific, that you know has gone downhill. In that case, you know, if you're in the mentality of moving it on, then it's probably time to chop it. So there we go. As you can tell, I need to go and get wrapped up and get this end back. I'm shit at night. I really am. But yes, I appreciate everyone who's tuned in there with good numbers tonight, ladies and gents. That's amazing. And I'm not going to tell you to go and watch the documentary because I think everybody who's tuned in tonight has seen it already. All I can say is stay tuned. There's plenty more to come. Great videos and great fish. Did anybody... Oh, you see fucking Andy. You see, I have actually... I've done you a disservice there, Andy. NND. I forgot then, right then, that you know, just happens to be a phenomenal pond of Sankey that I had in a mud pond all summer that are currently being processed through the system. So I'll say no more on that. I've got not too many specifics, but stay tuned. And if you are not in the groups, links are down below. Koi Online, Ricky Stoddart, Nishikigoi group, and of course the Telegram one. So thanks for joining, ladies and gents, and fingers crossed I will catch you all next week.